This video is for earth science, and we're just going to go through a couple slides to talk about the water cycle. So when you think of water, there's three stages: solid, liquid, and gas. And of those three stages, they're basically determined by the temperature, which is sort of where we're heading next after this when we go to weather. Even though water is constantly changing states, the total amount is always going to remain the same, and it'll remain constant. And the water that is on this planet is the same water that has been on here for 4.5 billion years. It just gets cycled. So over 70% of the Earth's surface is covered by oceans, and water is constantly being cycled between the air, which we know is the atmosphere, the hydrosphere, which we know is water, and the lithosphere, which is land. When we look at evaporation, basically this is the sun, and it's going to provide the energy that is needed for the water cycle. It heats the oceans, the lakes, the rivers. It causes water to change from a liquid state to a gaseous state, and the oceans contribute to about 80 to 90% of the water vapor in the atmosphere. During evaporation, all of the impurities, for example, salt, are left behind. That's important because most of the water, 97% of it, is from the ocean, and only 3% of it are from the rivers, the streams, the lakes, ponds, and so on, and from the ground. So most of our water comes from the ocean, so when it does go up and get evaporated, the salt is left behind. And here's just some pictures that you can see of the water sort of evaporating up with the help of the sunlight. Okay, the next slide is condensation. So once it gets up, it will cool and condense in the clouds. The atmospheric temperature is going to decrease. The water vapor, which is a gas, changes back to a liquid. And condensation is the opposite of evaporation. Small droplets are formed in the atmosphere. They collect in the cloud. And you can also get fog at a ground level. And you can see condensation in the summertime on your drinks and also on the leaves in the morning. You can sort of see that. And that is condensation. Precipitation is the next stage because there are 4 stages. Tiny water droplets bounce around together, and when they hit each other, then they become larger. And when the clouds get heavy, the water will eventually fall back down to the earth. Precipitation can be in the form of rain, freezing rain, snow, sleet, or hail. And you know, as well as where we live, we have all 4 of those forms, or all of those forms. Actually, there's 5 of them. Most precipitation falls back into the ocean or onto the land. It can fall in the form of snow, and then it can go on to the ice caps. It can form glaciers. Most of the condensed water in the clouds does not actually fall as precipitation, though. And there's just a picture here showing that it is falling as the rain, snow, sleet, or hail. The last slide then is the surface runoff. About 1/3 of the water that returns to the earth as precipitation runs off the surface of the land, down a hill, into the streams, the rivers, lakes, and then eventually everything will flow into the ocean. The other 2/3 of precipitation is evaporated, transpired, or infiltrated into groundwater. Infiltrated just means it goes underground. Surface runoff is a very common, important part of the water cycle because it returns the water again to the bodies of water from where it first evaporated, and then that cycle continues where we go back to evaporation, condensation, precipitation, and then runoff. And this is going to happen when the snow melts. And here's a picture just showing surface runoff.